Hey, my name is Christian, and this video is to new players of Counter-Strike, experienced players of Counter-Strike, and professional players as well. In this video I'm going to talk about how you can train your physical focus and give you a tool to come out of tilting when you play Counter-Strike with a directly positive effect on your gameplay and how well you play. We all tried it, and it happens even for professional players on live TV. Sometimes how well you play can go up and down depending on the things that happen around you. Sometimes when you watch Twitch TV, you can see that the losing team are all like red in their face, and they're holding their head with their hands, and they're tilting. And sometimes when you have done amazing plays and the crowd is cheering, you can become so happy, and it can make you play even better in the next round. So this has all to do with tilting and focus. I have been an NLP trainer for more than 3 years. NLP is short for Neuro-Linguistic Programming, and it's a pair of theories and models and tools for mental training and psychotherapy. Okay, let's get started. The human brain consists of more than 100 billion neurons, and in this neural activity, think of it as like computer programs. There is a lot of activity going on in the front, and a lot of things going on even more in the back. So there are a lot of programs running in the back of the mind. It's not everything that our brain does that we are conscious about, and consciousness is important. The neural connections that you use a lot will become stronger and require less energy to use, while those that are used less and less will become weaker. Completely like muscles. When you train in a fitness center, or if you stop training, your muscles will grow if you exercise, and if you stop exercising, the muscles will not stay at the same strength. This is why a lot of pro players, they play like 9 hours a day, 10, 12 hours a day, because it's so important to practice and repeat. They say that the brain can consciously focus on 6 to 7 things at a time. In a more positive mental state, you can add 2 things to that. That means you can go up to focusing on 9 things at once when you're really focused, and when you're positive in the mind. And in a more defensive or closed state of mind, you subtract 2 numbers. That means you can go down to focusing on 5 things. This is known as a tunnel vision. It comes when you're tilting, when you're angry, when you're mad, when you feel that the teammate is to blame and you're like a victim in the game. You start raging. It comes when you're sad about something, or if you feel like you're gonna lose in an important tournament match. And it often comes from, like, it can come from annoying debates or discussions, which is why it's best when you play online to avoid getting into huge arguments, because it actually makes you able to focus worse. The positive mindset comes from recognition and positive comments. For example, if someone tells you that that play you did was really good, and they focus on the positive things, you actually start to become more focused and you play better. Okay, next step. We have our own model of the world. We create the model of the world that we see through our senses. Primarily, we see things, we hear things, and we feel things, which is called stimulations. And we have a lot of senses to stimulate us. We can see things with our eyes, but we can also see things in our mind. Like, we can have mental pictures, and we have the ability to hear things with our ears, but we also hear things inside our head. We can have a conversation in our head and say things to ourselves, and all these things affect us. We can also feel with the hands, but we can also feel things inside the body, like emotion. So the reason you need to know this is that a thought or a behavioral pattern is started by these stimulations. A pattern is the name of what happens when you think or you do something specifically, and you can use this model of a pattern that I'm going to give you to analyze what exactly how you are starting how you start out, what you stimulate yourself with when you're really focused, and what you stimulate yourself with when you're really tilted. And when you're really focused, you can actually just copy these things that you do and start doing them, but do them consciously instead of unconscious, and it will make you play better. And about the tilting things, I'll get to that, but it's about changing them and removing them. Okay, so a pattern, it consists of 4 things. It starts with a stimulation. This is something you see or you hear or you feel inside your mind or outside. Then it leads to a need. It leads to some kind of need, and that will lead you to, like, this is something that motivates you. Like it will lead to a motivation, and then it will lead to a thought, maybe, and then it will lead to something that you do. So this means you start by being stimulated by something, and that leads to you feeling something, maybe being motivated to do something, or maybe being maybe the feeling of not reaching your goal, and this leads to can lead to you thinking something new, and ultimately doing something new. This means that if it's a reflex, you don't always think, you just do, right? So that means you have stimulation, need, and then the action, instead of stimulation, need, thought, action. These are the 4 steps. Okay, the reason that people can play worse at LAN tournaments than online, think about this. It's primarily that the things that they see and hear and feel are different than at home, where they used to be. And this creates some completely new pictures and voices in their mind, that results in a new pattern. And this pattern, when we talk about it like this, usually it's like nervousness. When you go to a LAN, you perform worse, or when you go to a tournament, you have this problem with nervousness. Like Device from Astralis had a lot of problem with nervousness. This is usually because he's not aware of the stimulations that create a new pattern. So the stimulation is like the button that activates a program, and you want to push the buttons that activate the good program, not the bad program. For example, at a LAN tournament, there is a lot of noise. This is something that you hear. This can create a new pattern. Maybe it will lead you to thinking new things. This will also lead to a new pattern. Maybe you see a lot of people around you, and this is a stimulation. This is like a button. It creates like a program. It creates a pattern that will make you think new things. And this can be like, this can affect your focus in a bad way. It can also affect them in a good way, but mostly when you're talking about LAN performances, it's in a bad way. Some people get even nervous. But you can also get online. You can also get tilt when you're online. Today I'm going to focus on internal voices, which is a strong tool to create focus and directly affect your gameplay. Step 1 is uncover. What am I thinking when I'm tilt? This is individual for everybody, so I cannot just give you some sentences that is gonna help you focus, but I can give you the question that will uncover it in your brain. So what am I thinking when I'm tilt? And you have an answer for that, and you need to write those answers down. And all these sentences, they usually start with the sentence I, the word I. For example, I will usually think, I'm gonna get shot in a minute. I have to shoot him fast. I'm in a hurry. I always lose against this guy. These are all internal sentences that I say to myself when I get nervous or tilt. And it's like pressing a button and executing a bad program. And notice how they all start with the word I. This is important because it has something to do with what you associate stronger. So these are really normal things that everybody can think. You might not have thought about what you're thinking before, because the brain is running it as a background program, and you're not focused about it. But those are bad sentences because they are internal stimulations that create a new pattern which leads to a worse, how do you call it, like performing worse, and it needs to be changed. You can also ask yourself, what am I thinking when I'm top focused? What are you thinking when you're top focused? And it's going to give you some other sentences, and these sentences are good, and you can just copy those and use them. So step number 2, if you have found the good sentences when you're focused, all you have to do is start saying them to yourself. But if you have found the bad sentences from when you're tilt, you need to remove them. But here's the trick: you can't just remove something from the brain without replacing it with something new. This is because negations do not work on the brain. You cannot say to yourself, I am not going to think about a dancing ice bear or polar bear, because then you will start thinking about the polar bear dancing. So the stimulations work no matter if you say I shall not or I shall. That's why you can't just remove them. You have to find something to replace them with. And this is step number 3. Replacement. And you replace by taking every sentence and ask yourself, what is the opposite of this for me? So, for example, my sentences were, I'm in a hurry, or I have to shoot him fast. So I will ask myself, what is the opposite of I'm in a hurry to me? And the answer to that is I need to take it slow. Then I need to take it slow is a sentence that I can use on myself to create the opposite effect of tilt and focus stronger and get out of the tilt. It's like pressing the opposite button than the bad button. So you actually have these power buttons that you can press just by saying these things to yourself. It's going to create focus because you're conscious about it all of a sudden. You're in control of what programs are running. You can also say, here's another example. One of my other sentences was, I need to shoot him fast. So I ask myself, what is the opposite of I need to shoot him fast for me? And that is, for me, I need to count every shot. So notice how this doesn't have to be a logical opposite. It's not necessarily a logical opposite. It just needs to be, what is the opposite of this for you? So when you have these sentences, you write them down, and you find 1, 2, or 3 sentences that you can remember, and go into like a game or a deathmatch, and you start saying them to yourself in the head or in the mind, right? While you're playing. For example, it could be like this. My new good sentences could be like this: I need to take it slow. I need to count every shot. I need to take it slow. I need to count every shot. Or it could be, I need to take it slow. I need to shoot him in the head. I need to take it slow. I need to shoot him in the head. But I need to be conscious about what I'm thinking, and I need to choose what sentences I say to myself. I only take the ones that work. So when you go into a game and do this, try to feel how the real sentences have a direct effect on your ability to focus, and it completely removes the tilt. Maybe it works at once for you, and maybe even you only feel it working a little bit, and you're still fighting with the tilt. And that's because you need to use more time on saying it while you're playing. You need to practice it more, just like you practice aim. And that's because, like I said, the neural connections in your brain are like a muscle, and the things that you have been doing for a long time, for example raging, are the easiest things to do. Even if it's a bad habit, it will be easier for you to start doing the things that you have done a lot. So if you're the kind of person that rages every game, when you're unconsciously reacting to something by raging again and again and again, you're actually modifying your brain to become better at raging, or easier at raging, which is bad, right? So being conscious about this and starting to say other sentences to yourself, you will consciously start to practice going in the other direction, the positive direction. You're going to train or exercise the muscle of your brain that executes the good programs, that creates focus and better performance. So when you start saying these new things to yourself, it will be hardest in the beginning, or it is likely to be hardest in the beginning. For me, it's not hard in the beginning at all. It just worked at once. But for some people, it will be harder in the beginning, and then it will be gradually more and more effective. But the trick here is to remind yourself that you need to be conscious about them. You need to say them consciously. This is the same general principle that is used in psychotherapy to cure phobias and people that are frightened of things, like fears of height, people that hear voices in their head. Try it. And my name is Christian, and I hope you like this video.